Welcome back to Mystical Sisterhood, where we embrace the mystical, our authenticity, and do the work as a collective. Today, I'm joined by Michelle Hirschman and Darcy Mehan of Hirschman Clinical Services for a powerful conversation about how healing can look beyond traditional modalities. We explore creative healing, how intuition strengthens through practice and embodiment, and why so many people feel disconnected from their voice and how to reclaim it safely. We talk about the importance of collaboration over competition in healing and business, how community supports nervous system regulation and growth, and why joy and healing don't have to be separate. We also explore how slowing down leads to clearer decisions, what it means to trust yourself in work and leadership, and why creative and intuitive modalities are becoming essential, especially as we move towards 2026 and new ways of expressing truth and authenticity. Let's dive into this wonderful episode.
Hello, friends. This is Michelle Hirschman, and I'm here with the lovely Maureen Spielman, and we are doing something so different in the new year that I'm really excited about. We're actually going to be posting on each one of our podcasts this interview. So we're both not going to be taking the lead, right, Maureen? We're just going to be like
Yeah.
talking and schmoozing.
Yes. I'll say welcome to Michelle. This is Michelle Hirschman I'm with today, and Darcy Mehan. And we're here together. It's the Hirschman Clinical Services and the Creative Healing Podcast. And so, yeah, we met just a couple of months ago. And it was funny because we have 1 hour today and we decided try something new, sort of be with each other in the space. I think you and I, Michelle, are both comfortable interviewing people.
Mhm.
And so it's kind of like a space where we can have our audiences get to know one another
Mhm.
through some questions. But I can say, I mean, I'm just starting. When we met probably just 2 short months ago, I think that you had contacted me and had learned about the work and were curious. And I would venture to say that curiosity was born in the fact that we share a lot of similar passions.
Mhm.
And if you will, for my audience, and maybe it's for your audience too, but just give a brief background of what you do, like what you've done historically, but what you're up to now as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Maureen. Yeah, I also just love how we connected. Like I just reached out and you instantly reached back and we just connected so quickly.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we think that it's hard to find connections, but when you are brave enough to just, send that email, you'd be surprised. There's a whole community of beautiful women and folks for us. So anyway, I'm excited to get to know you more, Maureen. I am a licensed clinical social worker. And so like for the last 25 years, I've built this coaching company that launched in Los Angeles and now is in Kansas City and Kansas, both on the Missouri and Kansas side. And we work with folks with chronic mental health, eating disorders, and substance abuse issues. And we're mobile. Darcy Mehan, who is here with me, is one of my lead coaches. She sees a lot of the clients in Los Angeles. So that's kind of the behind the scenes that I just have been doing for so long. But the passion project that came from the Creative Healing podcast was just this desire for me to educate my clients and my colleagues in the medical profession on all these creative healing modalities that go beyond the traditional models like psychiatry and therapy, rehab centers, and even this coaching that I have created. I kind of did a nosedive a couple of years ago in some of my own life challenges and was realizing that my therapy was flatlining. And so I was reaching out to other modalities of support and just thought it was miraculous and wanted to share about it. And there's just so much more suffering that I'm seeing. And I know Darcy sees with our clients and in the world, and we just need to get more creative. And so the podcast came alive from that. So we interview all different types of really amazing healers. They're not always master level credentialed. They just have these really beautiful tools that you don't always need a master's degree for. So yeah, so that's the Creative Healing podcast. And then I have some other beautiful projects that bring together community. that are on my website. I have nurturing networking events where I bring healers and networking together so we can all self-care while we're connecting with each other. And I bring together all healers of all modalities. And I also, my biggest kind of exciting adventure in 2026 is I'm co-hosting my first retreat in
Yeah.
Spain. So I'm hoping to bring people together in Spain and do some transformational work, walking on the cliff sides and building community and eating really good food and enjoying ourselves. So that's in 2026. Everything's on my website, Hirschman
Oh,
Clinical.
beautiful. Yeah. Yeah, I can see so many parallels in our work. And, when we decided just the half an hour ago to do a new format, I was
It was
thinking
just so you guys know, it really was just like 30 minutes ago. We're like, sure, let's just see what happens.
to see what happens and how you and I think do share similarities and that, the three of us can sit here today knowing that us going out and shining our lights is only going to make that light more impactful, brighter, amplified into the deep needs of the world right now.
Mhm.
And I think similar to you, Michelle, I just recorded an episode kind of going through these, like the areas of my life where I had been challenged starting from early childhood. But when I went through a major diagnosis a few years ago, I think before that time, even though like I was already reaching out for books on universal themes and spirituality, sort of like this relegated woo woo side of things, I was paving the path, but I also had been a traditionalist because I had been conditioned that there were only a handful of ways for healing. And so when you just describe your story of what creative healing actually means, born out of your work experience, your life experience, I love that because the same thing happened to me when I was looking and saying, like, okay, these are the traditional ways to heal. I
Mhm.
mean, one of the biggest healing modalities that I reached for was inside of me, my intuition. And I had never been taught to pay attention to it, to know what it was. And that became something I was like, oh, wow. For the first time in my life, really, 7 years ago. Like, wow. Okay, I'm going to listen to that. What does that mean? I'm going to ask some questions. But also, what you're saying is like, oh, okay, I'm going to go try Reiki. I'm going to see if Reiki can help, lessen the side effects of this drug, the drugs that I'm taking. You know what I mean? The
Mhm.
treatment. I'm going to see if acupuncture can heal. And I already knew like a medium and Akashic record reading, but that was the basis. Even though Mystical Sisterhood launched in 22, I think, or 23, it's 3 years old, is that it's like you, it's like sometimes it feels like a Harry Potter catalog of like all these healing modalities. But now I know like if we are conduits for those resources coming through these microphones and our lives, then it's so beautiful because they're exponentializing right now, right? And
Mhm.
even the work you're doing in your practice, it's really profound. And yeah, so I'm just honored to sit in the space with the two of you.
I remember when, so you were connected to me by Jen Snyder, who we've interviewed. She does amazing intuitive psychic energy work. And I was like, oh my God, you bring community together. Thank
Mm,
you.
mhm, mhm,
And I think that is so important right now because so many of us are feeling so alone and know that there's something bigger out there, like that we're craving this like inner knowing and we don't know where to go with it. So when you can build community and connection, it makes it so much easier to almost like find yourself again in the
yeah,
midst of it. And I really see that. And you have so many different groups and such. Do you want to share a little bit about Mystical
yeah.
Sisterhood?
Well, Mystical Sisterhood is the podcast, and I think my vision for it was podcast and community. And I think what I'm seeing too, and I don't know if you're seeing this at all, Michelle, is that I think following going through the pandemic when, everything's so, even if it was online before, that got really, sped up and then so much of business has been online.
Mhm.
And then there was an incubation period, it felt like, that felt like people were saying they wanted community And then there was still some reticence of coming into community. And I think to me, and this is just my experience, but I feel like we're crossing a threshold where people are like, especially in 25, we're like, okay, yeah, we're really going to come to the circle. We're going to come to the table. The ancient forms of gathering are coming together. And
Mhm.
so, I've loved to do programming and groups around whether it's, conscious parenting, because that was one of my fields of study. I'd say my two main ones have been conscious parenting and spiritual psychology.
Mhm.
But that whether it's around our parenting or reparenting of ourselves, or getting to know, our emotions, and doing inner child work, or, just women's journeys, it kind of all interests me. Right now, the group that I run on Wednesdays is about women with soul-led businesses. And it's really coming together to inspire one another. And, I have to say, even you and I met last week, for that hour, and we were talking about our businesses.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about it because I think that day we really inspired one another. And we also can hold each other's almost pain points and the things that are difficult, because the bottom line is I know I don't have it all figured out. And the ways in which I still am not showing up as myself fully in the world are there for me, absolutely. But when I see another woman kind of walking in those shoes, and
Mhm.
she's got her own stuff, right? It's
Mhm.
incredibly inspiring to me. And those moments really, they kind of embed within me, and they they serve for my own transformation. So in these ways that we can see one another and be like, wow, she's doing what I cannot yet do. It's so inspiring, whether it's being with our emotions, learning to parent a new way, being inspired by another woman in business. And that's what I was going to say too, is that I think we saw in each other immediately that even though our work was parallel, that we
Mhm.
were going to choose collaboration over competition.
Oh, wow.
And
Mhm.
that's not of interest anymore. It's like, yeah, does that brings
Oh
stuff
my
to
God.
mind for you?
Oh yeah, I just got the chills too because I'm like, I love that you said that because I think that's an old model of thinking.
Mhm.
Like, oh no, don't give too much, don't say too much. They'll take it away from you and then you'll not have business. And it's so not true.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
there's so much power in coming together, exchanging ideas, sharing the creative ideas you're doing because no one else can do what you do anyway. Like we
Yeah.
can't take you away from you. I can't be
Mhm.
you. And absolutely I ditto the inspiration that comes from being, and honestly, particularly with a group of entrepreneurial women, there's something very powerful about that because we're still new to this. I mean, everyone, I get like we've been, we're starting to kind of build rise, but it's still not so long ago that we were,
Yeah.
that is, you just need to be mama bears and stuff. So I'm fully stepping into it every year in a deeper way that feels
Yeah.
authentic too.
That's so cool. I think I just said something about numerology, and I'm not a numerologist, but I think that they say that 2026 is going to be a 1 year when you add up the 2026, and it's going to be 10, but it's a 1 year. It's considered a year of new beginnings. And I know that we are going to be offering this podcast at the beginning of the new year. And I think that's really powerful because that's I think that's something that's coming through for Mystical Sisterhood is like, okay, it's been around for 3 years. I don't know about you too, is like for the two of you, Darcy as well, is like, do you learn through what you've created? Is it your teacher? And are you constantly learning from it? Because I feel like with Mystical Sisterhood, I created it and I had a vision and certain things about it, but I'm still watching it and learning from it as if it's a living, breathing entity in a sense.
I'll let Darcy respond too. I think for me, I'm actually just so everybody knows out there, we're actually recording in November. And this is a big pause month for me and really reflecting on where I'm going with the creative podcast. It was really interesting the other day. I was at the grocery store with my son and we were at the checkout and this woman came up to me and she goes, "I recognize your voice." She's like, Thank you. I went and saw that medium that you presented, and I had just been like thinking about what the heck am I doing with this podcast? Where is it going? And then I get this message and this download from this random lady at the grocery store. I'm like, thank you for telling me, and she's like, yeah, I'm gonna see Gina next week. I'm so excited. So I think there's something to that, that there is a trickle effect, and sometimes it's super slow. But it is I think it is important to, I'm in this digestion right now to see where to go and where sparks are flying for me, because I've always gone with this place of I need to feel excited about something and passionate in order to vibe it out there. Otherwise, it just becomes flat. But it has been just really exciting to me at this point, just so that the audience knows that everybody that I interview, I'm just like super excited about. And I would say 70% of the time I get like sessions with them too, because I don't like to refer out unless I've had an experience of some sort, because I'm super protective of everybody out there. But I'd like to shake it up, and I'm still culminating some of those ideas. And I'm so appreciative that a half an hour ago you're like, let's do this different thing. I'm like, thank you. Thank you for spoon feeding that to me, because I am not there yet.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. How about you, Darcy?
Yes, so this is talking about numerology and how that can be this invisible guiding force. It's something that came up very recently in a podcast episode with Linda Landon, and Linda highlighted the human design and how Michelle's a generator and I'm a manifester. You're a manifesting generator, Michelle?
No, I'm a pure generator.
Pure generator. And it
Mhm.
was reflected back from that lens how collaboration is imperative, and that the individual, magic and the soul humming in Michelle, it's like distinct and complete, and certain things are going to be enhanced, illuminated, certain inspirations are going to strike because of how they're mirrored back by our collaboration, by Maureen, like you and Michelle, hearing you together. It's like, oh, there are things ready to be birthed and
Cool.
brewed,
Mhm.
right? And one thing that I've been so blessed to witness from behind the scenes for a number of years now with Michelle is how intuition that you spoke to
Mhm.
has been your tag team, like your playmate, Michelle. It's like if
Absolutely.
intuition's not part of it, it's not going to happen until the inner yes makes itself clear. And that shows me how much soulfulness and devotion is part of this service work,
Mhm.
because there's the service and the productivity that's part of being in, our modern day world, and the timelessness of the heart coming in to any offering is what's lacking in so much of business and community right now. So it gets me really excited to hear you, Maureen, and both of you together, Michelle,
Mhm.
because there's the heart and the really integrity driven business. And I want to say yes to both because I want some strategy, right? Like, I definitely want to be hiring people and working with professionals that know their stuff and are following really ethical standards. And I want the softness and the playfulness of intuition. Like, I want to learn about that too. So this gets me all really excited, and I know listeners will too.
So well said. I love it too because I think that what was really shining through is that you can have these, like I use that word parallel, but like really overlapping areas of interest and knowing and everything. But then the woman behind the scenes and what each of us has experienced in our life is going to emerge as to what we're here to share, what wisdom comes through, what I think that's spectacular because I think that that's that we were taught that like yeah the degree behind the name was what made the person the woman, but in actuality it's what she's experienced in life and kind of like what was how did she get through it and what was her process and what ancestral baggage or stuff is she carrying. So it's just I think that that's the beautiful alchemy of our lives too, and we need our voices right now. We need this work out into the world. So I love the way you shared everything, Darcy.
I love connecting to people and really understanding their essence, and I think that's why I get so passionate about creative healing, because we carry so much baggage from childhood, from past lives, from ancestrally. So when we can identify it and get clear, then we're like super shiny and glowing, and like we get to like connect in this deeper way. So I find that really important, because I know for me, my intuition has gotten stronger, I would say, over the last 5 years. I think it's always been there and I've been using it, but I'm now more conscious of it. Like now I feel it. I'm like, oh, I just got that download and I'm playing with it. And it's really fun when you can, and we all have it. Jen Snyder, who came on the show too, I think that she was running groups. And I think Endra Kelly too, we interviewed her. She's coming on in January as well. She talked about like how to tap into it, because we forget.
Yeah.
We forget. And that's where our kind of powerhouse is. So,
Oh,
um,
yeah. It's
yeah.
deep work, right? It's kind of like I was saying, like first learning about it and something someone said, the woman in the grocery store you just brought up, Michelle,
Mhm.
is I was thinking about like how these sort of signs and guideposts for us are there all the time, each and every day, right? And
Mhm.
how I woke up, I spent Friday, talk about your season of rest.
Mhm.
Last week, I was reading this book, and it's by an author, Tosha Silver, and it's called Outrageous Openness. And it's just like really softly, gently written, playfully. And it's about how the universe is here for us and like leaning in and really trusting the divine source. And I kind of took Friday and just kind of luxuriated a little bit and was reading the pieces and taking notes. And it led me to a new revelation. So I woke up Saturday morning, and one of the premises behind Mystical Sisterhood, the podcast, was that joy and healing could occur in the same arena, I guess. And I realized this feeling of joy was coming through Saturday morning when I woke up. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're being led to share more joy too. And maybe that it's been there all along. But if I look at what I've created so far, it has been a lot around the healing aspects of it. And I think that's for humanity, but it was for myself too. And so maybe through shedding the layers of my own conditioning and moving through life and becoming more of me, I I think I can speak to like that's where I'm able to access the joy now. And I kid you not, because I live right outside of Chicago. And I opened my Instagram that morning and it said Chicago is number 8 in joyful cities to live in the United States. And I was like, I took a screenshot of it because I was like, oh my gosh, like I woke up with this thought and then it comes right through. And it's almost like I think a lot is coming to the surface too about how in the future things like telepathy and like just because we know, how everyone always says, like, I think my phone's listening to me. It's like, when we're having actual and you look up like I like, this Lululemon top or something, and then it's all of a sudden like you've got an ad for it. But I was almost like, oh, isn't that fascinating? If you just take that, like I'm thinking to my own self, like joy, 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 and it appears on my phone. I mean, it's just like you can't make this stuff up.
I love it. Yeah.
Fun fact, it turns out near Michelle, you are near another one of the most joyful cities in the US, apparently. I just looked it up. You kept
Really?
wanting to go over.
Very
Where is
cool.
it? What is
Overland
it?
Park, Kansas. It's close to you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been there. That's really
Yeah.
interesting.
isn't it? The word joyful came up recently, Maureen. So the fact that you're stating it, it's come up a few times in the last week in conversations,
Oh, wow.
creative healing conversations, one on one with a client. And it's one of my favorite words. So when I hear it, it's like it's this angel wink. It's a reminder that we have access to joy, that it's a
Mhm.
choice, even a choice to soften into when life is thrashing us around. So I really appreciate you bringing that up. When it comes to intuition and voice, Maureen, I know that's, your background as a speech pathologist, and so much of your work with Mystical Sisterhood is supporting clients in finding their voice. And Michelle, you do that in so many different ways in providing direction, supporting the clarity process of, what's healthy, empowered, integrated living. Alignment is key focus with HCS clients and the community. I'm wondering for both of you, when it comes to being connected with your voice right now, is it feeling more vocal and loud or more internal and private, maybe more connected with intuition and felt sense? I know there's a lot of shifts that are happening for people right now, and wondering for both of you as leaders if you're noticing one or the other more.
Well, it's ironic because I spent the weekend in a workshop called the Vocal Odyssey. And
Mhm.
I highly recommend checking out her website. Nessie is her name, and she is a beautiful musician. And she creates these retreats to help women and men. This one happened to be a group of women virtually. She usually does them in person all over the world. She's coming to the US this year for the first time. So I'm definitely going to be tracking her website, but how to really tap into our voice, not necessarily just our singing voice. Of course, I am not gifted a singing voice, so going into this, I was like, I'm not trying to like be somebody I'm not, but like literally there's so many metaphors, right? And really being able to speak up and how it's been squashed in so many ways culturally, and then of course child of origin stuff. I realize that 2026, I want to use my voice, and I have so many different barriers that I'm acknowledging. I'm dealing with so many shadows right now and downloads. It's like a little bit. I'm definitely being tossed around. I like that visual. As I'm like really trying to emerge, like I see myself just kind of like going through all this stuff so that I can be bigger, because I have a whole message about that too, about being too big. And so I think sometimes I do go inward, and then I'm also trying to find new tools too to like really step into it and become more conscious of the downloads that are no longer useful to me, that are keeping me in a place that I can't elaborate my voice in. And some people might be surprised because I definitely have been very loud in certain aspects of my career. Like I'm an advocate, and a lot of my colleagues will be like, oh no, there's Michelle. Like she's going to be a pain in my ass, because she just speaks her truth when it comes to that part. But there's these other aspects, that I'm really, people would be surprised how
Yeah.
difficult it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for that answer.
Yeah.
I can relate. I can relate. And it's a great question, Darcy. Thank you. I want you to answer it too. I'll go next. But
Mhm.
I think that the nurturing of that voice within me, I've been practicing for a few years now, and it has been an absolute transformation of how I used to speak to myself, how the voices of criticism and shame and all the things that came through were really wanting like a really gentle hand and light shown upon them so they could have a chance to start using new language, more softness, because I didn't have that prior to quite a few years back. But that's a process, that's a journey. And I think that the outer voice, like yourself, Michelle, with my work and my business, absolutely, it's there for me to say more, have more clarity, know that I'm worthy of sharing it, know that it's not too much. You can't be too much. It's okay. And also in my personal life, using my voice to say what I need to say, to kind of voice what were once unmet needs that came out in messy ways. I know that that's for, my primary relationship with my husband is like, okay, how do I say what I need to say? How do I say it with clarity? How do I say it with respect? How do I say it with as little projection as possible? How do I take ownership of that voice? And also, it's been a great practice grounds with my kids because as they've gotten older, I think I was a mother who held back a lot of what I thought. And I think that, like you said, Michelle, the origin stories, that definitely was it that I was too much, that I didn't have clarity. I think one of my shadow sides is like, you're going to go to say what you want to say and it's going to be messy. It's too, and I was laughing because in the solo episode I just recorded, I was saying like, I know, like I've never identified with having ADD or ADHD, but like there's parts of my mind that just goes down rabbit holes and like labyrinths and like craziness. So it's like but that's a shadow side of knowing like well, that's not a bad thing. That's probably a superpower that you don't realize. Like I'm doing it right now.
Great. Well,
But
yeah,
like
great.
all like the inner voice, but all the areas of practice.
Mhm.
So like revisiting, ways like how can I communicate clearly what I want to say? And I guess that's the pervasive thing across like all these different relationships and outlets. But how about you,
Absolutely.
Darcy?
Gosh, I learned so much through listening, and questions are a love language. So being able to ask them to both of you is such a treat. And thank you for turning it back on me. Connecting with authenticity and really pausing to consider what is authentic to this version of me is how I'm exploring voice and ways of expression that are asking to come forward are revealing themselves, and that's definitely coming through intuition. It's coming through pausing, so changing my pace. I can move really fast or be at zero. And the in between, really being conscious in the in between, where there's rest and slowness or quiet, and outside influences are a little bit further away, like I'm in my zone. That's been something newer that I'm realizing is really wanting. It's not newer. I'm recognizing how important it is to give it attention with intention, to be, it's like, what is this version of me? Who is she? What color paint does she want to put on these new walls? And does the phone want to stay at home, or do I want to be fully plugged in? Simple questions. So, getting to explore that with a lot of what came up in this podcast episode is going to guide me even this week in how can I connect really honestly with what's true for me now, and then live into what's asking to be created next. And that's the opportunity every listener has here. Both of you are guiding with just the speaking of authenticity, like your ownership of your experience and the generosity that you share with. I respect greatly. Michelle, respect greatly. Maureen, I'm so grateful to be introduced to you in Mystical Sisterhood, and will definitely be part of the growing community too.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that attention to yourself with intention. And then it's such great, beautiful, exciting permission to give yourself like the changing us, right? The changes and every day and giving ourselves permission to step into something new. Like you said, I love how you say paint color. Like, gosh, I never would have chosen that, but now I do. And it's representative of the me I'm becoming. It's really beautiful.
And I know that both of you typically shift into, we're at the end of the episode. And since both of you are in the episode and co-hosting the episode, I want to invite both of you to share anything that the listeners may benefit from. And we'll close it out for now. Maybe there will be a part two.
Yeah.
I'll just say to walk away with the themes of sisterhood, of collaboration, of cheering another woman on. And I add men too, but just we're moving into new energy. And I think like I always say, one of my teachers said 7 billion, 8 billion, I'm not sure which one it is, people on the planet.
Hmm.
There's plenty for all of us to succeed and shine and thrive. And so, yeah. So if you want to check out anything, I don't know if that was your question, but I can be found at Maureen Spielman on Instagram or maureenspielman.com on, my website. And I'll be putting up some new programming soon and some things that I'm starting in 2026. So happy to celebrate today with both of you. How about you, Michelle?
Love it. We'll put that in our little summary. Yeah, I think one of the things that I'll definitely be launching more in the new year is there's just so many great resources out there, so many creative healers, and it can get kind of overwhelming because I think there is a flood that's coming because there's been such a need and we've been so suppressed for so long. And Maureen and I are one of many. I think we do a really good job of building community and bringing community. So I kind of feel like Maureen and I will probably be doing something together in the new year. So you'll have to like track our websites and see where Maureen and Michelle are together doing something
Yeah.
cool, workshop or something. but I love helping people come figure out what their creative healing plan is. So if you are kind of confused and you like see all these different healers and you're like, where do I start? I'm happy to sit down with you. That's kind of what I do virtually or in person if you're local, and come up with a game plan, for yourself so that you can launch into the world, especially 2026. Like, it's so good to have that intention of what you want to play around with and work on and what groups you might want to participate in. Like Maureen has so many beautiful community groups, and maybe there's some that fit there, or some of these other folks. So
Yeah.
don't be shy.
Yeah, I love it. It was so good to have coffee with you today, Michelle
Yeah,
and
it's
Darcy,
really
and just have a
lovely.
casual conversation. I always think like every single thing we talk about is like a microcosm of just like this thing that could be an hour long. But
Mhm.
I think that's the wisdom of women too, and just that we lead with our hearts and we're not afraid to go there. So thank you for today.
Thank you. Thank you for
Yeah.
this idea. I'm so grateful.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Mystical Sisterhood. To learn more about my one-on-one coaching programs or join the Mystical Sisterhood membership, visit maureenspielman.com or mysticalsisterhood.com. Thanks so much. I'll see you in the next episode.